Hello, Jose. It's so good to see you.
Hi,
How today?
nice to see you too. I hope you
Nice
and
to
the
see
family
you.
are well.
We all well here in California.
Also here.
For the people looking at this interview, would you like to introduce yourself and Susanna and what you do and where you are?
Yes, so my name is José. I'm calling from Sintra, Portugal. We are with a very hot day, very sunny day in May, 30 degrees here, and also in the last few days, nice weather. People are going to the beach in these days, which is very nice. So myself work with people with disabilities since I was 16 years old. It's all my entire life working with people with disabilities, almost 33 years. I was the founder of a non-profit organization in Portugal that's called Cercitop. We have two second-line hospitals. We have occupational and rehabilitation centers. We have homes for people with disabilities. We go to the homes, to the houses of people, doing some support. We go to the schools, doing support to children and teenagers, etc., with disabilities. We work here 245 people, and we support more or less 1,600 people, most of them with disabilities. And we also have tourism. That's why we are here talking. But I want to speak about this organization because, like you most of the time say to me, and many other partners that we have that always say this kind of things to us, is that we have some services that we are almost, I don't say we are unique, but we are one of the few companies in the world that provides a complete offer for people with disabilities, because we provide, of course, hotels, we provide tours, visit monuments, etc., etc. But we also have technical helps. We have our own fleet of vehicles. Most of our drivers are also caregivers. In this case, because of this crisis of COVID, I think it's also important to say that we have protocols, of course, and most of our drivers already work in the past in our second line hospitals. They are medical auxiliaries. Many years ago, we pick up some of my colleagues that work in the hospital facilities that we have, and put them working in tourism, because we want a complete service. If necessary, of course, 24 hours a day. We could provide also nurses to give some support to our clients, and that's it. That's why I think we have a complete service, because we provide everything.
That is truly quite unique. Of all the network of colleagues and partners we have across the world, I think that you are probably the only one that had this unique setup of being both coming from the healthcare angle and serving the population of people with disabilities, and then having created a whole new venture called tourism. It's quite unique. And for the record, for the sake of disclosure, for people listening to us, I had the privilege of visiting you and visiting your operation in the past. We worked together now for some years, and we had many clients. But I had the privilege of actually visiting one of your hospitals, and it was really impressive. I mean, it is on the level of quality of care that you will find anywhere in the world, certainly in the US. So, having said so, we now in the age of this pandemic, and how does that affect your business? How do you cope with what is going on today in Portugal and in Europe altogether?
We are fine, given the circumstances. For you to have an idea, our hospital capacity in Portugal never broken, never. We became very far away from the top of occupancy in our hospitals. Our health system, the things getting pretty well. I think New York Times and many other many other newspapers and television spoke about Portugal, and they spoken very well about our country and how we manage things. And also in my organization, we test all the people that work here. All of them were negative. I also went 2 bottles of wine because of that. I made some bets. And this is not new for us. It's important to say this because this is not new for us. Because in our daily work, we have this kind of protocols, you know. And like I said, we have 2 hospitals with 89 beds. They are not main hospitals; they are second-line hospitals. And this kind of protocols for quarantines and all the procedures that the staff that work in health center must have and must do. This is normal for them, and this is normal for us to work with this kind of things. So this is our daily. This is like that. So we take some measures just to avoid some problems, and one of the measures was create a safe corridor with our vehicles to transport our workers between their homes and our facilities. And everybody here take meals. In our kitchens we produce the meals, and our workers, they get meals from their houses for them and also for their family.
Okay. Yeah.
The idea was they don't leave their houses; they only go between the houses and our facilities. They don't go elsewhere. They don't go to the supermarket. That's how we guarantee that we don't have nothing with COVID-19. So because, as I think everybody knows, the problem is not the people we are in our hospital facilities, the patients. The problem was not them. The problem is me and you and people that go out on the streets. They go to supermarket and to the pharmacy, etc. We are the carriers. We are the potential carriers to put the virus inside of our facilities. So that's why we create this corridor to avoid contagions, and everything is fine.
It's working.
Yeah. Yes. And people now, they are going to the beaches, and the monuments already open, and the restaurants, and so almost everything already open, and it's everything okay.
I wanted to ask you, because again, you know, sitting here in California, and believe me, every day the news across the US it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that we have 100,000 deaths just in the US. So I was asking, give me a sense, if you will, of the daily life, if you will, in Portugal today, because we hear a lot of confusing information here in the US about what is going on in Europe. So give me a sense. The country has reopened, the whole social distancing, of people wearing masks. Give me a sense of what is going on in Portugal, and maybe to the large extent in neighborhood like Spain, for example, so struggling to go over the pandemic.
Yeah. In Spain, they started earlier than us, and they have more problems. In some cities, the health system collapsed. Many Spanish came to Portugal by plane, by car, by train, and to be treated in our hospitals because things were pretty bad there. Now they are really better, but in Portugal, happiness, we are pretty well. Some people in the streets use masks, but few people. We don't use masks in the streets. We use masks just for precaution in public transportations, in buildings, public buildings. Some schools already open. People, especially the employees, use masks in the kindergarten, not the children, of course. So we have some measures just for precaution, but every day, all the numbers that we are receiving, we are even better every day, and we almost don't have people dying, and very few new cases that appear. So we are pretty well. Just for you to have an idea, in Portugal, in last few years, more people died from the flu than from the COVID. we only have one people that dies below 45 years old. It was a guy from Bangladesh, an immigrant that have lots of health problems, and it was the only person that dies below 45 years. Just for people have an idea. I think many doctors, just curious, many doctors speak about this because it's a big coincidence. Because in our healthcare system, people get the vaccine to tuberculosis in Portugal. For many years, it became part of our national system of vaccination, but not in Spain. Many doctors talk about that. In Spain, for many years, that the vaccine for tuberculosis is they don't give it. It's not an obligation in Spain. And many doctors in Portugal and Spain talk about it. I don't know if you in the US there's a discussion about this, but in Portugal and Spain it's a big discussion because myself, my children, everybody in Portugal have this vaccine. It's a very old vaccine. And in Spain, they don't have it, and the scientific community are speaking a lot because of this. Just curious. I think
no, I mean that's a very good point, and that's and I think that point is well made. When we do get a vaccine for COVID-19, I can tell you that here in the US we have a whole movement of people that don't believe in vaccination. I'm not going to make a political statement here with you on the interview, but it is a huge problem. You know, it is a problem for people that are just afraid of vaccines, or the decision not to vaccinate themselves, their kids, has sometimes a political implication also. So it is a big issue. But the US is a huge country, and when I look at the map, Portugal and Spain next door, I have to express some concern.
Yes, of course.
Well, if you say Portugal is pretty much open, aren't you concerned?
I don't listen you. I'm not listening you now. You said that in Spain?
Okay, I'm going to rephrase the question. The issue that I'm raising is that Portugal being next door to Spain, and Spain having still a big issue with the pandemic, aren't you concerned now that it is a summertime? It's vacation, kids want to go out, the families are traveling. Are you concerned, or how is Portugal addressing the issue of maybe the influx of tourism from Spain, Portugal, of people that might be still carrying the virus?
Yes, that's a concern. I would say it's not a big concern. It's not a small concern. It's a reasonable concern because that's true. There are more people are infected in Spain than in Portugal. Lots of people. Statistics are brutal, but they climb up the mountain, but they are also going down the mountain very fast. So things in Spain are quite better, and I think it's a question of time until the borders opening in all Europe, because this is an issue about European Union. I think yesterday, for example, I listened in the television that the airline companies in Portugal are going to start to fly to many countries, including US next week. It was a surprise for me because I saw in the news that your country are close to flights from Europe, and they said on the television that we are going to starting to fly to US. We already started to fly to Germany and UK this week, and next week we are starting to fly to other European countries. But the borders, terrestrial borders, are going to open very soon. I think 3 weeks from now, and I hope that in three weeks things are even better than they are today. So I think if people have some precautions like they are having it, I think it would be no problem to open the borders with Spain, I think.
So let's touch on that thing, because here in the US, we still are under trouble. So right now, as we somebody can fly out even to Canada or Mexico, where our neighbors to the north, to the south, let alone people fly into the US. We still have the ban in place, but obviously, you know, on a political level, the organizations are helping the country very soon. But one of the things that is of concern to our travelers, from the young travelers, are the new protocols that will have to be put in place to ensure their confidence on the safety of travel. I'm talking about new protocols, obviously, in the airline industry about cleaning and spacing, more to the point hotels. Many of the big hotel chains, Marriott, for example, now announced a full set of cleaning and sanitation protocols. Do you see something like that happening in Portugal to address the influx of tourists and maybe also to reinstall a sense of safety and confidence?
Yes, the Tourism Board of Portugal had created a seal for clean safety, and all the hotels, all the travel agencies, transportation, restaurants, etc., monuments, to have that seal, they must have to follow all the protocols, and TourismForAll already have that seal. Also, the main hotels that we work with also have that seal, restaurants, etc. Like I said to you in the beginning, we have our own fleet of vehicles. We also have this kind of protocols. And if people came to Portugal, they even have a driver that are not really also a driver, but it's also a medical auxiliary that works in the second line hospital, like I said, and they are also caregivers. So I think people in Portugal will be quite safe. And one of the things that I usually say about Portugal is the healthcare system in Portugal is always, from many years from now, are always in the top 20 of the medical systems in the world. Our best classification was 12. And we have a good health system, and that proves that is a good health system in this crisis. No, we have no problems, and it's also free for Portuguese and for foreigners. It's free. That's one of the main characteristics of our health system. So, with a nice health system, with all the measures that we have, all the protocols, etc., I think people who don't have a health problem. When I say a health problem, it's a complicated health problem, because I have asthma, for example, and I never feel that I was in risk, to be honest, never felt that. And unless people have a health problem, a complicated health problem, I think this virus, which is good, it's not very dangerous for health people. So I think it will be not a problem to travel for Portugal or for elsewhere.
Sure. Sure.
If people travel for a complicated country, but well, we don't have protocols, we don't have cleaning measures, we don't have a good health system. It's always a problem in traveling, of course. But I think, of course, not Portugal. Of course, I am interested that people come to Portugal, of course, but I don't think it will be a problem, honestly.
Okay, I'm going to open a parenthesis here. And I couldn't agree more with you about the level of the care. On a personal level, I don't know if you remember, some years ago when I came to visit Portugal, we were scouting and we met you and Susanna. And it happened that Aika, my wife, when we arrived, she got sick. She had something that needed urgent care. And you referred us to the clinic that was just around the corner of the hotel that you had us stay. And the whole experience, which I anticipated to be painful and costly and a nightmare, was a breeze. We saw a doctor within half an hour. He took care of the problem. We had to pay a fee, which, for Americans was ridiculous.
Yes.
In terms of, I think it was like 20 or 30 euros just for the visit because it was a private clinic.
Yes.
And my wife and I, we said, this I want to move here. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a personal story. But on another, I'm sorry, go ahead.
People who have low salaries, they don't pay fee at all.
Right. But on another level about our business in accessible tourism, again, as a parenthesis, but we had a number of occasions where we had clients visiting Portugal with you, through you, with us or without us, where anytime there were some issues that needed to take care of, I can attest that you and your organization were able just to solve the problem. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, we had a lady that was visually impaired, and her condition worsened when she arrived to Portugal, and we were able just to find the health solution to her problem. So I will attest that you are well equipped as a medical provider to address those issues. On that level, let me raise another issue about accessible tourism. We have here in the US, it's something that we're talking with our colleagues in Australia, something that was raised yesterday by Crystal in Copenhagen. It sounds like there will be, or there is a trend or a desire more and more pronounced for family self-contained travel. Here in the US, we talk about road trips, when you can rent a vehicle, an accessible vehicle, and go with your family instead of being stuck at the hotel in New York, which right now it's dangerous to do so. There is a trend of going on the road and visiting landscape, nature for 10 days, a week. I mean, kind of more of that type of travel. Julie in Australia was saying that they are experiencing the same, that there is now this renewal for interest in doing so. Is that something that you see happening in Portugal, in Europe, kind of a self-contained travel with an accessible vehicle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you know, we have 9-seat vans to rent. People can rent one of these vans and travel all over the Europe if they want, not only in Portugal, but also Spain and other countries if they want. And we have some suggestions of programs for people to do, with everything accessible, of course. And it's possible. People rent a van and go travel from all Portugal or other countries. Yeah, it's possible.
For going back to our English-speaking population here in the US, Canada, I wish I could say that many of our travelers speak another language than English, but the vast majority speak English. Do you see that as how would you assess the level of difficulty for English-speaking only people to travel independently in Portugal and
almost people in Portugal speak English.
Yeah.
Almost people, and I'm not one of the best examples, but I have.
It's perfect.
I think most of people understand what I say, and also Portuguese have a very good pronounce in English, comparing to Brazilians or even Spanish also. Also, many people in Portugal speaks French, but most of them speak English. Almost people from 55 years old or less, they speak English. More than 55 years old, some people speak English, other people don't speak English, but most of people speak English, so never will be a problem, never. And also some people speak German, but English is the first one, French is the second, and the German maybe the third language. I have many friends that speak German, so but English is universal language. Almost everybody in Portugal speak English, so.
Yeah, no, I can attest to the fact that it was the case when we traveled to Portugal, when we had clients come to Portugal, it was truly the
monuments,
case.
Restaurants, everywhere people speak English. So.
Right, but it's great to know that for families, coming again from our community of travelers with disabilities, knowing that they can be you can organize an independent type of travel across Portugal and hopefully Spain, Italy when it's safe to travel again. It's good to know that there are those options open for our community of travelers. That's great. We were always very impressed by the level of accessibility in Portugal, even compared to the US sometimes, or especially that Portugal is it's an old historic country with a lot of old castles and cobblestones. But I have to say that we were always impressed by the level of accessibility in those sites that you want to visit, the Moorish Castle, the Sintra, and so forth. It was just magnificent. Do you see a trend? Do you see something like that reinforced? Maybe because of the pandemic, maybe because there will be a desire to even renew in a massive way that attracting tourism to Portugal. Is there a discussion in that respect?
No, there's not a discussion. Not now. Maybe very soon we have this kind of discussion. But I think this pandemic, it will be a nice opportunity for accessible tourism. Not in Portugal, not only in Portugal, but also maybe in other countries, because as you know, there are sometimes in this kind of tourism we have some difficulties because some hotels don't, and some monuments, restaurants, etc. They don't make improvements in their facilities. And now with this pandemic, in my opinion, what I think is going to happen is that all these players in tourism are going to look with the other eyes to this kind of niche like accessible tourism. So absolutely. I think it's a good opportunity to accessible tourism, I think. And as you know, we speak lots of times about that. Every week that passing by in Portugal, became more and more and more accessible.
Sure.
I live in the whole neighborhood, and last summer in 2019. The city hall made some improvements in the streets, and now the neighborhood became accessible. It's just an example because there's a law in Portugal since 2006, 14 years that this law is on the field, and every street, every monument, every public building that make improvements, they must become accessible.
Yeah.
And Portugal became accessible every week, every day, and I think it's great for people who come in tourism, but also for Portuguese people who are in the wheelchairs or who are blind or have an impairment or whatever. And I forget to say something about tourism in Portugal. Is that, as you know, and I think everybody knows that in the last 3 years, we are the best destination in the World Travel Awards. It's great.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's a cheaper country compared to the other countries, especially comparing with other European countries. And last year, it was the first time the World Organization of Tourism create an award for accessible tourism. It was the first time last year they create this award, and Portugal won. In the last year, we were considered the best destination in the world for people with disabilities. So I think there are good reasons to visit Portugal.
Absolutely.
Especially because we have all the means and we do a great job.
No,
but also for this coincidence that we are the best destination in the world for last 3 years, and also the best destination in the world for people with disabilities.
I have a big smile on my face because, again, for people listening to us, we've known each other now for some time. Yeah. And at the beginning, I was so happy because I thought, oh my God, this is the best kept secret. This is this great destination, incredible people to work with. We're going to make it. It's going to be fantastic. But I don't want that to become, the new Rome, when suddenly you have millions of people. And it's going to happen. I'm sorry to say, but you're going to have millions of people coming to see you, and it's great for business. And no doubt, I mean, coming back to accessible travel, you mentioned earlier, you know, we usually consider that a small niche business. It's not a small business.
Yes, it's not.
It's huge business. You know, this is our main selling argument, if you will, when we talk to hotels, transportation, airlines, what have you, the providers in the industry. We said to them, look, you know, we are a 16 or 20 billion dollar with a B purchasing power. You know, we're not niche. We are big. Yes. You better accommodate our needs. Jose, it's great talking to you. I could be talking to you now for hours.
Yes, me too.
We already, you know, we coming on our half hour, and I know with the family, it's evening your time, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But last words of wisdom before we say goodbye, and we'll have more conversations in weeks to come. It's kind of a current affair, but any last words before we say goodbye?
Congratulations because of this initiative. It was a great idea. I think it's very useful for everybody that wants to travel to have all this information. Thank you very much. It was lovely to see you and talking to you. I hope to see you soon.
I hope so too.
And give you a hug.
Absolutely. I think once we get out of this misery and it's safe to travel again and we can travel, I got to tell you, Portugal is on my very, very first place on my list of going back to and enjoy myself. Not for work. I'll just come just to visit you and spend some time with you and Susanna. All right. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon again. Have a great day.
Give a kiss to Ika.
I will. Bye.
Bye.